Gosh, you're really getting into the Naga spirit despite stealing my Lena Inverse costume. Look at me, this isn't even my size.
And I told you, there's no way I'm wearing that outfit.
Oh, but seriously, look at me, this isn't fit. It's falling off. Look at the hips, the chest, even the gloves. It's why I got the Naga costume in your size.
Oh, you got it in my size. Really? So you were going to trick me into wearing that Lady Death, but anime-style cosplay? No way. I showed enough doing my Gangle cosplay a couple of weeks ago.
Well, my outfit doesn't fit you either. You can't even get the pants closed. And that shirt rides up so much you can see the scales. And hey, wait, I just realized you don't have a belly button.
What? Of course I don't. I'm a dragon? I hatched, remember?
Well, no, I was like 2 and being kept in a fireproof room whenever my mom was at work. How do you think I became such a shut-in? I was even homeschooled till I was 10. Hey, come to think of it, if you're a dragon, do you have ears?
Of course I have ears, Agni. Why would you even ask that?
Because every single picture I've colored of you, even this one, you don't show your ears. The only picture we have of you with visible ears is when we did the Cain and Cecil cosplay for the Final Fantasy IV crossover. And the surprising thing here is that Slayers couldn't be further from Final Fantasy IV while still being surprisingly similar.
I mean, they're a little pointy like elf ones and... Wait, what?
Hear me out, because it relates to Baldur's Gate and also how we play D&D.
Well, this crossover took a turn. Let's hear it, Agni.
So what I'm not going to do is just a simple one-to-one comparison. It would be easy to just say, like, Gauri Gabriv is Cecil, and Lena is either Rydia or Palom. Zelgadis Greywords is Cain, Emilia is Rosa or Porum, and Naga the Serpent is Golbez. Hell, we could even go into the easy comparison of the cosmic horror that is Zeramus to the Dark Lord of Evil, Shabernigdo. But that flattens the stories into just being a series of comparisons that is flimsy at best.
I thought his name was Zeromus.
Whatever. Bahamut or Bahamut.
Point.
Instead, what I'm going to do is go into the history behind what inspired both of these series and what is so important even now. Dungeons and Dragons. Satan's game. Your children, like it or not, in their weaker years are attracted to the occult, and a game like D&D fuels their imagination and makes them feel special, while drawing them deeper and deeper into the bowels of El Diablo.
Oh my god.
Dungeons & Dragons was first released in January of 1974 and was created by Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson. Since then, its spread has been amplified across the world from direct adaptations like Honor Among Thieves, Baldur's Gate, and a cult classic 1980s cartoon. By the way, these guys die in Honor Among Thieves. Go back and check it out. But things are even stranger than that. D&D reached a global success by the 1980s and had become immensely popular in Japan. This was the inspiration for Final Fantasy, according to game developer Akitoshi Kawazu, who helped design the very first game. In fact, Final Fantasy was originally meant to be a Dungeons & Dragons game, but they couldn't get the licensing agreement and had to change the title. That's why so many of the core elements are essentially the same. Look, Final Fantasy I didn't even have mana or MP. You used actual spell slots assigned to spell levels.
That's so cool.
Something that became really popular alongside D&D in the 1980s of Japan were D&D replays. These were essentially fully recorded sessions. Everything was included, not just the gameplay or the storytelling elements, but a lot of the side chatter, random dick jokes, and stuff like that. Sort of like what we see out of Critical Role, but here's the difference. Critical Role follows the format of a replay, where the Mighty Nine follows the format of the narrative. It's more similar to how Final Fantasy tells the story of the adventure, while admitting the friend group realism behind it all. For those of you old enough to remember Dr. Demento, there was a famous skit in the 1990s that centered around D&D that was later adapted into a flash animation by Cybermoon Studios on Newgrounds in 2003.
God, I miss Newgrounds.
Using characters from Final Fantasy that was released in 1987 for the NES systems. Using Final Fantasy for the skit was clever because it flipped the expectation of Final Fantasy around and made it more like a traditional Japanese replay. Final Fantasy IV still follows the same basis of Dungeons & Dragons inspired gameplay, though several tweaks were made over the years that sort of gave the game series its own identity. Spell slots were replaced with MP, and the classes evolved in their own ways that was still D&D adjacent, but were used in ways to tell you even more of the story. Cecil's Dark Knight abilities drained his health to highlight his sacrifice and suffering for the Kingdom of Baron. Edward had use of the Hide command because of his cowardice. Rydia can't use fire magic despite having access to black magic because of a traumatic event around fire. Instead of just giving you a bunch of stats and numbers to crunch or just loading up with 4 dual-wielding fighters and, well, meatheads go brrr, it gave you a narrative that honed into the characters' existing relationships, like Palom and Porum's twin cast, or Tella's MP never getting up above 99 exactly, so he would have to sacrifice all of his HP for one single MP to cast Meteor. Between that and the Spoony Bard comment, I kind of wonder if Tella isn't at least an unintentionally hilarious character. That exchange rate on MP is crazy, be so for real. But for all intents and purposes, Final Fantasy IV is a very serious story about loss, betrayal, redemption, love, family, and forgiveness. Slayers is about a bunch of broke assholes who hate each other but decide they share a common enough goal to tolerate each other long enough to get it done. Now there's a real D&D group.
So they're murder hobos?
No. They're just broke assholes. Slayers follows the format of a replay almost perfectly. The heroes, if we can call them that, are all deeply flawed individuals. Yeah. Naga is typically found passed out drunk in a tavern. Lena is greedy and manipulative. Amelia is zealous and a font of toxic positivity. Zelgadis is self-loathing and cold. And Gauri's an idiot. Their goal isn't really noble, it's just making sure their rent is due and that there's food on the table. Sometimes Lena fails not because the enemy is too strong, but because her magic just straight up won't work while she's menstruating. Yes, really. And look, I understand that some people might see that as lowbrow humor, but, do you cast magic? No? Then you have no idea how hard that time makes it to cast. Magic requires concentration, and concentration on fire magic is making sure the damn house doesn't burn down. So once you can cast and menstruate, I might listen to your opinion on that. Don't come in my comments making assumptions.
Seriously speaking. Jeez, Agni.
The cool part of that is I'm actually way more powerful during that time, though, because I'm also in constant agony. But Gauri is strong, kind-hearted, but aloof and, well, stupid. His tactics include hit thing with sword. If thing live, hit harder. He follows the trope of the D&D fighter in how they contribute to the party by being the meaty guy who crushes stuff. This isn't me hating on Gauri. I'm saying it works because the show is meant to be funny. Like I already said, Gauri is still kind-hearted. He represents the knight errant, striking out on his own in search of powerful foes, treasure, and damsels in distress. That's actually how he meets Lena to begin with. See, Lena had robbed a bandit camp and was trying to escape into the forest when Gauri mistook her for a small child in distress. He stepped in to defeat the bandits, and Lena totally led him on into thinking she was really just a scared and helpless little girl. So in this way, Gauri fits the same trope that Cecil is meant to, but he does so in a subversive and humorous way that's more similar to the ridiculousness of a D&D replay.
Whereas Cecil is much more serious.
This is also why I'd compare Lena to Rydia and Palom. Aside from the obvious, the two of them being black mages, Lena is the small, helpless child with immense power that both of them are. Rydia being a summoner and Palom being a black mage, yet they start the game at the ages of 6 and 10, respectively. Lena, by the way, is only 14 years old in the first Slayers anime, the same age as most protagonists that start out on average. Goku was 13, Naruto was 12, Jonathan Joestar was 12, and Sailor Moon was 13. Gauri is around 20 or so, the same age as most Final Fantasy protagonists. Cecil was 20, Cloud was 21, Tidus was 19, and Bart's Clouser was also 20. You know, now that I'm looking at him, he kind of looks similar to my Martin. A lot of characters' abilities are played up as a bit of a joke as well. Lena fireballs a whole room because she's having an autistic fit. Gauri, despite being basically a nobody, carries around the freaking sword of magical light. Amelia, the group's healer and resident priest, plays up her religiosity to a zealotous level, going completely over the top in terms of faith and adherence, such as when Lena and Gowry imagine her casting serious offensive magic at jaywalkers and people who pick up stray coins on the road. Plus, she's supposed to be 12, and I already feel sorry for her back. I guess it runs in the family, though. After all, this is her sister. Which is basically the only reason why I would ever draw a connection to Naga and Golbez. They both fit the trope of a long-lost sibling that helps from afar, but also serves as a sometimes antagonist. That is to say, when Naga first shows up, she simply declares herself Lena's ultimate rival, and will try to act as a foil, but her antics only end up annoying Lena and not really causing any true damage. She's like that NPC boss that the party incidentally comes to love and ends up being a bit of a DM insert character. Also, following NPC rules, there are even a number of Naga copies running around the world. Some of them were created through magic, and there's one that was created by a particular mirror that creates an exact opposite copy of a person. So in Naga's case, Shadow Naga has low confidence and is extremely modest.
Wait, why did you give me her costume? Just because she's busty?
Because I already had Lena Inverse. Jeez, what would my Shadow version be? It'd have to be, like, unimaginative and horny.
You know, someone might...
Oh, don't get me started on him. Not after the sound bubble incident. I couldn't figure out how to uncast the spell, so nobody heard me tell him to knock it off. And people thought I was really letting him go that far in public. I'll burn his left eye out if he tries something like that again.
But then why do you actually like him?
Damn it. Look, I like the aesthetic. He's got a Dio-esque, Asterian-like Ganojo-ness, but damn it, if he'd use it for good now and then, he'd be alright. Fuck, breathe, the mic's still on. Well, you guys know what I say. If you're gonna make bad decisions, do it in video games. Yeah, I call this guy Bad Decisions.
Yeah, that's why you keep courting characters like Asterian and...
Back to the crossover. You know who else would have been really good for this crossover? If we could have gotten Bruce to do Zelgadis, we could have painted his scales blue.
I don't know. You might actually make Rose do something she'll regret if you do something like that.
Oh, Rose would be Amelia. But Zelgadis is similar to Cain because they both fit with the tragic hero who was once in service to the dark side. Rezo the Blind fills a similar role in Slayers to King Baron, who employed both Cecil and Cain, but Cain stayed in Baron's service longer than Cecil and was eventually brainwashed to be his enemy. In Slayers, though, these roles are actually reversed because it's Gowry who gets brainwashed instead. See, the tropes are all still present, but they're used in different ways, but with similar aspects to Dungeons & Dragons games. How so? Look at Baldur's Gate 3. You have the warrior, the white mage, the black mage, the red mage, the thief, and the monk? Okay, I know her base class isn't monk, but hear me out. I've been doing some research on character builds, and apparently cross-classing Karlach with a monk is really powerful. And it makes sense. Look at those arms.
She looks like she could throw me over her shoulder and carry me to safety. Should the need arise.
This crossover has gone really off the rails.
And now here's why this is the perfect format for a Slayers crossover. It takes the expectation of what a Toa crossover video should be, and it completely turns it on its head, just like the Slayers does with fantasy tropes. Basically, Final Fantasy is what the D&D party thinks they are, and Slayers is who the party really is. Because sometimes a subversion of expectations just means having a little fun with the project. Turning every video into an essay is honestly tiresome. And I know there's people out there fighting their own epic stories, standing up against murderers, cannibals, vampires, trolls, and Lovecraftian robots. And that's just inside the City of Atonement. Sometimes we just need to dress up in costumes and let loose a little. Or, in my case, very loose. Can we trade back yet?
Agony, as always, you concern me.
But that's going to be it for this video. For more deep dives into anime, video games, history, and psychology, along with a smattering of art and storytelling, Like and subscribe, and...
Wait! You can't let them go without a crossover fic, can you?
A crossover fic at the end of the video? Okay, you've got a point. Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for. Agni and Bree in the Slayers universe wouldn't necessarily make a big splash in the series, save for one very important detail. Two, actually. Bree, being a gold dragon, would be a member of the Ryozoku, the dragon race that is typically made up of gold, black, ancient, and Demos dragons. They serve the Shinzoku, or the gods of the world, and are foes of the Mazoku, the demon race. This is actually similar to the dragon and demon war that served as Atonement's ultimate fall sometime in the 22nd century. Agni would likely be a sorceress similar to Lena, favoring fire magic. She might even find herself at odds with Lena on occasion, as the two would be in search of the same type of ancient magic tomes containing powerful magic. Lena might even take interest in Agni's special spellbook of necromancy and madness. If the two groups were to meet, Agni and Bree likely wouldn't be interested in fighting Lena. Luckily for them, Lena's always willing to bargain. Surely for a few pages of forbidden eldritch knowledge, Agni could get the secrets of the Dragon Slave out of Lena and enable me to do this. Darkness beyond twilight, crimson beyond blood that flows. Buried in the streams of time is where your power grows. I pledge myself to conquer all the foes who stand before the mighty gift bestowed in my unworthy hand. Let the fools who stand before me be destroyed by the power you and I possess. Dragon Slave!
Can we change the name of that spell, please?
I want to thank every one of you once again this week for coming to these ramblings of an anxiety-ridden pyromancer.
And her dragon best friend. We're a small team just doing our best to bring our stories we've loved for decades and hope they're the kind you like too.
With a side info dump of psychology, lore, history, and social awareness.
If this is your first video, we hope you'll stay for another one. And maybe you could consider becoming a subscriber. We'd love to see you again.
Our subscribers can move mountains for a channel like this. The engagement we get just keeps growing each week. You guys are getting the word out and people are listening.
And we really can't express how grateful we are to see our passion project take off. 20 years of love and dedication are here laid bare. Help as much as you care to, but at least watch and talk with us.
Of course, we can't close out a video without giving a shout out to our patrons. Emily Masternardi,
Heinrich 28,
Pammy Poo,
JC Moreland,
Shadow Fox,
Charles Tam,
Arya Gamari,
Lundair Lumen. But also don't forget our channel members, Moose Now,
Jack McLeod,
Plebe 64 Potato,
Lundair Lumen,
7 Stars Sanctuary,
and Chained Furry, Many a Mickle Maximuckle.
See you next week.